Webinar funnels are still one of the most reliable ways to sell high-ticket info products, especially to cold traffic. Most people try a webinar funnel for a month or two, and when it doesn't automatically start printing cash, they get frustrated after a month or two and say, it doesn't work. But in reality, it's their funnel, their offer, and the way they structure their webinar that's holding them back from being able to scale. I was in a very similar boat. You see, when I first launched my info product business in 2024, I was doing VSLs for about a year. I got stuck at that 6-figure per month mark and didn't know how to scale past it. When I first transitioned to webinars, it wasn't the easiest. Like anything, you have to develop a skill set in it for it to be able to scale. First month I did it, I was stuck still at around 120K per month. After a few months, I got up to double that at 240. 2 months later, up to 448. A month later, up to 975 for the month, and now doing over $1.1 million per month with this one funnel. So in this video, I'm gonna go over exactly how you wanna structure your webinar funnel to turn cold traffic into high ticket buyers. This is the exact funnel that I'm using for my own high ticket offer to do over $1 million per month with over a 3x return on ad spend. And over the past 12 months, I've spent over $1.5 million on this exact funnel. So you're getting this from someone who's in the actual trenches, running this every single day. Let's get into this video. Look, if you're new to this channel, my name is Mar Green. I've spent the past 21 months scaling my info product business from $0 per month and being highly unprofitable to now doing over $1 million per month. Every video on this channel is dedicated to showing people who have their own high ticket offers in the info space how they can get over from $100,000 to over $300,000 per month using the best up-to-date funnels that are working currently and being able to do it consistently using paid ads and the right sales systems. Just to be clear though, nothing we share here is guaranteed financial success. I'm simply showing you what we've done in our business and our clients wants to get them some exceptional results. Hope it helps. Let's get into it. All right, so the first thing we need to speak about is the actual structure you need in your webinar funnel. Now, it's a lot simpler than it seems, but putting the right pieces in the right place is what gives the right result. So here we go. First thing you're gonna need is a direct response ad. Now, people kind of just throw shit at the wall and think that people are gonna respond to it. When I'm building a direct response ad, there's a few things I wanna go after. Number one, I wanna make sure I'm talking to an in-market demographic. I don't wanna speak to someone that has no idea what I'm selling, never heard about it. I have to teach them what the offer is, all these things. Those are the hardest people to convert. If I'm speaking to someone that already knows about my product, already knows how it works, and they really just want to find out how they can utilize it in their own life, well, it's a much easier conversion. So when you're running ads, who's the cheapest people? The people that are already in the market for the product that you offer. Now, we'll go a little deep into that in a bit, but after you have a direct response ad, it's really simple. What you want to do is bring them to an opt-in page. Now, here's the thing about opt-in pages, right? You want to be able to collect some information, phone number, email, name. You want to have a lot of stuff because, hey, let's just say someone doesn't convert on your first webinar, right? Does that mean that you can never sell something to them later? Does that mean they won't convert 3, 4, 5, 6 months down the line? No, the more leads you have, the better chance you have to actually end up converting them, even if they don't convert on the first one. So opt-in pages allow for you to actually store these leads, even if they don't buy from you automatically. Make sure you have a good opt-in page. Now, from the opt-in page, what's the next thing? You'll go into your actual workshop. Now, there's a lot of steps that happen in between there. We'll go into it, but we're just giving the high-level overview. Right after the opt-in page, the next thing they're gonna have is to actually attend the workshop. Now, this is all gonna be built in a spreadsheet, which we'll talk about in a second, but at the workshop, you can't expect everyone to attend. Your job is to get as many people that opted in to attend, which means it gives you the best chance of collecting the most amount of capital on the other side. And then the last thing you have is your conversion mechanism. Now, it could be a few things, right? Some people choose to pitch an offer right on a webinar. Some people choose to do a book a call option, especially if you have a higher ticket product, usually over $3,000. I would say go with a book a call option. You get a lot of resistance when you start trying to pitch somebody directly into a 6K, 5K, 10K offer. Unless you have a great personal brand, they already know, love, and trust you, then you could do something like that. But if you're like me, you don't have a great following, a lot of people don't know you, you have to build a lot of trust. And when you pitch into a book a call, it's a lot easier than trying to convert on the webinar. This, in a nutshell, is the structure that you need to run. Direct response to opt-in to workshop to a conversion mechanism like a call or direct checkout. Okay, cool. Now, here's the thing. Before you launch any funnel, I do not care if it's an Instagram DM funnel. I don't care if it's a low to high ticket. I don't care if it's a VSL webinar or God knows whatever the hell you're doing, right? Make sure you do the math. You see, people who have good like organic content, they have an audience and they can convert that audience They just forget that math matters. They're like, hey, I'm making like 80, 90% net margins. I could just throw shit at the wall and all of a sudden people start spending money. But here's the thing. When you are spending ad money, advertising dollars, you are essentially gambling. There is no guaranteed return. And you have to have the balls to say, all right, cool. If I put out $1, for every dollar I put out, how much am I getting back? Is it $1.50? Is it $2, $3, $5, right? And the only way you can do that is doing the math. One of the things that I do for myself and all the clients is we financially model every damn thing before launching it. We should know our expected rate of return. I'm going to talk about some high KPIs that you want to make sure you're hitting as you go into this. When you are having a direct response ad, here's what you got to look for, right? You should ideally be over a 2% click-through rate. Can you make money under 2%? Absolutely. But in your financial model, over 2% gives you a high probability of actually being able to scale. 3%, 4%, 5% is even better. I know some of the clients I run for, they have 4, 5, 6% click-through rates, right? A lot of times on my ads, I have about a 2.5 to 3%, right? So we're way over KPI, but usually a 2% click-through rate means that you have a good ad. Now, next is going to be your opt-in, right? How many people, once they see your page, actually opt into your event? Now, it depends on the offer, right? On my offer, we have sometimes 15, 16% opt-in rate. It sounds pretty low, but the math makes sense. Look, an ideal KPI is going to be closer to around 30%. That's how you know you have a really good landing page. Some of the offers I work with, we have that, but at the end of the day, as long as the math makes sense, it's not something we're ever going to hyper focus on. At the end of the day, your goal is to be able to double, triple, quadruple your money. And if the math makes sense, the math makes sense. But I think a very good KPI for this is going to be about a 30% opt-in rate. The people that hit that page, how many people actually sign up for it? It's a free event, shouldn't be that hard. But like I said, we still have over 3x ROAS with like 17 to 18% on some of our opt-in pages. Just makes sense. All right, now for the workshop, what should you be looking for? You should be seeing at least about 30% of people actually attend the workshop. Now, the colder the audience gets, the less people that actually know what your vehicle is, what you're talking about, the less people show up. So I'm going to be talking about some tactics that allow you to drive a show up rate around here. But at the bare minimum, I would say around 25% is the bare minimum. Once you inject some of the stuff we talk about today, it gets a lot easier to get there. And then the last thing is conversion. So here's the difference, right? If you have a book or call funnel, right? We want to see at least 30% of people book a damn call. At least 30% of people that stay until a pitch, book a call. If you have a direct to checkout, we want to see at least 10% of people who are there during the time of the pitch be able to convert. If you have either of those, you know you're probably in scale territory. If your funnel looks at these metrics, it's going to be very, very hard. You have the right messaging to not make money, right? Make sure you're hitting these KPIs. And if you're not, it's all about what number can I drive up? What is the easiest one for me to get closer to the KPI, right? If you have a 0.8% click-through rate in your direct response, shoot some new ads. You double that, you're going to double your ROAS at the end of the day, right? Your opt-in rate. If you only have 15% of people, can you get to 30? Maybe you can, maybe you can't. But just doing that alone is going to double the output on the other side. So always play the game of what can I double? And then at the end of the day, if you double that, you double your return on the other side of it. Easy math, right? Then, of course, the last thing is if you're doing a book a call funnel, right? And let's say you have 30% of people actually go into and book a call. Well, now there's an extension to this funnel, right? You haven't wrapped up everything. You haven't cash collected. You actually have to talk about your show rate, your call, your close rate, and then what is your average order value? People always fall in love with these metrics. Like I have a 40, 50% close rate. But what if you're only collecting deposits and these low amount of numbers on it? So you're still not profitable and you still got to wait a few more months to actually collect all of the cash. Well, you're pretty much operating in the red for that time being. So average order value, how much are you actually collecting on those calls? I only give a damn about cash collected. I don't care about revenue. I don't care about some fictional tale or what somebody's going to pay me 4 or 5 months down the line. Shit, I got to stay in business now. So we talk about cash collect. So if you have these stats, this is what you're going to focus on if you're booking a call. Show rate, close rate, and average order value. Look, if you're somebody who's looking to get help with this, feel free to reach out. The link is in the description. Look, we consult. We help a few people, a handful of clients at a time, but we help you help build this whole thing out and make sure it's all built in a spreadsheet so you know exactly how much money you're looking to make. It's only for people looking to get to 100 to 300K per month. If that's you, hit the link below. If not, let's just keep on watching this stuff. All right, cool. So what's next? We did the math. We understand what we should be hitting. But now it's time to actually get to work. So here's the thing. When it comes to direct response messaging, I like to attack from 3 different angles. Number one, I like to talk about pain. So let's just say someone is looking to, they're struggling in real estate. They're struggling to close deals. I'm going to speak to that pain. Like, look, are you a real estate agent that has been completely struggling this year in the current economy and your income has been cut in half or more? Right? If that's a real life pain that they're going through, what's going to happen? Well, they're going to watch that video and click on my ad because they want to find out more about how we can solve their pain. Right? I love going with pain hooks. The other type of hook that I like to jump into is authority hook, right? If you could talk about what you've done for either people in the industry or what you've done in your own business, let's say you're a real estate agent and you're like, this is how I quadruple my income as a real estate agent in 2025. Boom, you have just literally segmented yourself as an authority figure, which is going to get the right people to continue to watch the messaging, right? 2 other hooks that I like to do is a curiosity hook. Asking someone, have they ever thought about a certain way? So it's like, have you ever thought about why real estate agents are struggling more than ever going into 2025? If that's them, that matches what they're looking for, now they watch the rest of the video. Your hook is the most important thing. The average attention span going on to short form content is about 1.9 seconds, right? But we look to get people there to stay at least 3 to 5 seconds so they can know if the video is for them or not. The hook rate is super, super important, and this is a great way to attack it. Curiosity hooks work. And the last one that I personally like to do is a story transformation hook. Right? If you go and say something like this, yeah, this is how I scaled as a real estate agent from 100K to 500K last year, right? You're going to tell them a whole story in this, and it's going to be interesting because that's something that they can see themselves doing it. It still has authority, but it's a storytelling transformation hook, right? There's certain kind of videos that work really well. One of the ones that I really like is B-roll storytelling hooks, where instead of having to shoot a talking head video, I think B-rolls are doing really well on content right now. So if you can literally just draft up some good copywriting, shoot some B-rolls of your life, those ads work extremely well. But for direct response messaging, we stay with an in-market demographic, people that are actively looking for what we are selling, and we use these 4 different types of messaging to convert them, right? If you're gonna be on Facebook, we all know that there's been this update Andromeda. One thing that I see working tremendously well is hitting it from a lot of different angles, a lot of different types of messaging in there, right? Before, what we used to do is look for a majority hook. Like, what was that one hook that gives us the best conversion? And we start reiterating it to put it in a different formats. And then we just keep on using that hook in a different way. And that usually gives us the highest ROAS. But right now, with the Andromeda update, what we've been doing is putting out a shit ton of different messaging, majority hooks, minority hooks, all these different things, and just letting the algorithm do its damn thing with this Andromeda update, right? So either way, creatives are the name of the game. The better your creatives are, the better they speak to your demographic, the better your results are going to be. Don't be one of those dweebs that put out like 5 ads a month. You're like, why am I not making money? At the end of the day, right? There's something called creative fatigue, right? If you don't have a shit ton of ads in the back burner, when your ads start fatiguing and your costs go up and all of these things, and you don't have a backlog of ads to start plug and playing in them, now you got to either go shoot new ads, wait for them to get edited, and all this time your costs are just going up and your ROAS is slipping. You should always have ads on deck to relaunch and make more money. All right, makes sense? Direct response ads, talk to an in-market demographic, and have a shit ton ready to go. I like to have at least 15 in the backlog at all times and at least 10 to 15 launched on a campaign so that Andromeda and Facebook targeting can do its thing. Last thing I'm gonna say about direct response when you're launching ads is obviously you wanna test a few different things. You can test broad targeting, you could test interest stacking, and keyword is interest stacking. Don't split up your interest into a bunch of different ad sets. Makes no damn sense. Stack it up. And you could test lookalike audience, but you gotta be able to test, see what's working, and then eventually scale up. Okay, cool. Now we got our messaging down. We know what we gotta do. We have a 2% plus click-through rate. We know where our ads are doing well. We're bringing in the right people. Now let's get to the next thing. Now, your opt-in page for a webinar needs to have a clear, cold traffic messaging offer. I was reviewing someone's work, right? And they make a lot of money on warm traffic. And when I looked at their opt-in page and it was completely shit in the bed on cold traffic, it said a whole bunch of nothing. It was like, do you want to find out the best way to buy a house or some shit in 2026? I was like, I don't know if I want to find it out. Like, what are you saying? But if you say something that's a lot more direct, it's like doing this live workshop that's upcoming. I'm going to show you the best way to go from having no home to having your dream home while being able to save tax dollars, right? Ooh, now that's a fucking offer, right? That's something that's going to be attractive to somebody. You need a clear-cut offer for your ideal demographic. Where are they starting? and where are they going? Point A to point B. By the end of this workshop, they should have enough information to win in this market, right? Regardless if they work with you or not, right? Clear cut offer. Now, I personally don't like to put videos on an opt-in page for a webinar. You can test it. I like to put clear as day, show a little bit about me, and I like to put sometimes some client and student results in there or my own results to build some authority, to drive up people actually believing what the hell I'm saying and actually convert. But at the end of the day, opt-in pages should be real simple and only test one thing at a time. If you're gonna test your headline, test that shit. If you're gonna test like adding student results or taking them out, just test that. If you're gonna test adding a mini VSL in the front and see if that helps to convert, just test that. But test one single thing at the time, right? And at the end of the day, if you get to a 30% opt-in rate or more, you know you have a pretty good opt-in page. Cool? Okay, so we got direct response done. We got an opt-in page that we know is converting really well. We're on our work. Now, let's talk about this, right? Going into the workshop, right? What is to be expected? Where a lot of people screw this up is when they have a workshop, they pretty much expect that everybody that signed up is going to show up. Doesn't work like that. I sign up for shit all the time and then I forget about it. Like I just signed up for an infrared mat from a company. During that whole time, they weren't messaging me, nothing. I went and found another company that had better reviews on Reddit and boom, I bought something else, right? It was a $1,000 mat. They didn't get my $1,000, someone else did. Why? Because they let me do my own research on their product. If they would have hit me with testimonials, all of this built the trust with me, all of this thing during that time period after I opted in, guess what? Probably would have had my $1,000, right? And he probably would have had a lot more people's $1,000. But when you let someone go on their own vice and start looking around at all the different options, pricing, all these other things, then they do their own research and that prevents you from converting. We want to do the research for them, right? What I love to do between the opt-in and the actual workshop is show them more of myself, right? Show them more of my results. So I like to build a lot of authority during this time period. That's going to come in the form of emails, text messages, showing them testimonials from my student. I'm going to retarget them with just content. I spend a few $100s a day just retargeting with content. I'm going to show them more of my Instagram videos. I'm going to show them more of my short form content. I'm going to handle a lot of objections about the actual vehicle, but they're going to see a shit ton of me. Why? I can't stress this enough. What I'm looking to do is replicate the organic process with paid traffic. If you have an offer right now, you know that someone who's already spent a ton of time on your YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, building all this trust, it is like a layup deal. They will go and close, right? We want to be able to replicate that with cold traffic. And how do we do that? We force feed them content. They can't stop seeing us, right? They see us everywhere. They look up and down. They're in their fucking dreams and nightmares, right? The more they see us, the easier it is to convert. You need to pay for content distribution if you want to get similar results as warm traffic does with your cold traffic. Make sense? Pay for content distribution. Trust me, it will drive up your ROAS. Only time you don't want to do this is if you are on a baby ass budget. If you are spending like $1,000 on a webinar, you don't have enough money to pay for content distribution. Sometimes when we swing the bat on a webinar, we're spending like 30, 40 grand on it, right? So a portion of that is just going to try to drive up these other results through the funnel because all those little points just matter a lot more on the other end. When you have the money, spend it on improving the funnel, improving the results, right? Content distribution. Replicate that warm content cycle with your cold traffic. Okay, cool. Now, but if you don't have the money, like just to preface this, if you don't have the money, you can still do it with SMS sequences. You can still add them to a bunch of email sequences, all the free things you can do to still drive results. Make sure you're doing them, right? You want to drive up not just the show rate, but the trust rate as they get into that. Now, this brings us to arguably probably my favorite part of this is the workshop. This is something I absolutely, positively, and I kid you not, sucked ass at for months. When I used to run my workshops, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I literally just copied someone's workshop, plugged some shit in there and hope it would convert. And all my numbers were so below KPIs, not even funny. I would have sometimes a 12 to 15% show rate to my webinar, right? Sometimes I would have only about 50 to 60% of people stay to the pitch, right? We would have almost no people show up to the call and all these things, right? And it was an issue with how I structure my webinar, right? Pay attention to this. When you get in a workshop, you got to remember, this is cold traffic. You want to have a quick, effective introduction. Who are you? What's up? Hey, what's up? Introduction, tell them the agenda, everything they're going to learn in the right order. Set the frame of what they're going to learn, right? Immediately after you intro and agenda, go right into telling a quick, effective story about you. Here's the thing. People kind of miss out on these two. It is not just about the authority and it is not just about the connection. You need both of them. They need to understand that you are that man or woman that actually has done whatever the hell you say you're gonna do, and you have a lot of proficiency in it. One of the things I love to do is I show my sales. I show what I've done in my business. I show where I came from. I show my journey when I was 6 years ago, not in business. I show what life looked like. So I'm building connection with them because they can see a lot of similarities in themselves and me, but I'm also building a ton of authority. I'm not still that same person I was back then. By the end of that, they should know that you know what the hell you're talking about. Connection, 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 authority, authority, authority. And of course, what even helps better is they not just see your success. If they see your client and student success, that's even better for them, right? So make sure that is all happening in the intro. Right after that, we go immediately into understanding the opportunity. What is that? What some people do is they jump right into teaching, right? It's like, okay, cool, I'm this, let's jump into it. Let's learn this, right? And I always say this, you'll get some people who are, let's call them hecklers, right? In your workshop. They're like, I'm tired of hearing about you. Let me hear about what the heck teachers teach me. And I'm always like, shut up. Like, you can leave. And I'm very direct with this because at the end of the day, you have to control your room, not the random naysayer or hater in the chat. Kick their ass out if they're not respecting what the hell is going on. But it is so important that the people there understand the opportunity. If they understand that what you're teaching them is valuable, if they understand how big the landscape is that they're getting into, if they understand that this is something that actually makes sense for them to invest in, either investing in you or doing it themselves, once they understand that, they are much likely to pay attention and stay until the end. If you just get right into teaching, they don't understand what the opportunity is, then what is it? Like, it doesn't really matter, right? One thing I love to do here, and like I said, for people we work with, we go a lot more in depth with this. We go in depth into like all these little strategies that we inject that really keeps our stats good. And I'll go over in a little bit what our stats look like going through the webinar. But after we understand the opportunity, I like to do some live teaching, right? The more people feel like they're learning something live that is super valuable, better connection, right? I don't do pre-recorded anything. I teach live all the damn time. I go live, I share my screen, I show them exactly how to do a lot of the things I'm talking about. Why? Because it actually builds a ton of value, right? And that leads me to my next point, right? After they understand how big the opportunity is and understand where it's going, why it will be good for them to, actually get involved in, whether they work with you or not. The next thing is the education value piece. Now, here's a key about this, right? When you're teaching somebody, okay, it is very important to keep it effective but high level. What does that mean? You don't want to go in the weeds and teach because now people, once they understand how hard something can be or how difficult or how complicated, they're turned off, right? You want them to understand like how to do something, but not get too in depth with it. They need to understand that if let's say it's a biz op offer about making money. They need to understand how they can make money, how much money they can make. You want to teach them how, if they want to go out by themselves, how they can make the money, but don't go too in depth with it, right? Don't get too granular. This is not just education. This is an educational pitch, right? So we want to keep a high level, but we want to keep it effective. Now, here's what's super important that I've realized. There's two different types of people on your workshop. And I'll be super clear here, right? Don't take this the wrong way. You got wealthy people and you got poor people, right? Way different. Here's the thing. When you're talking to people with money, they actually are okay with taking risks. They have money to risk. They're accustomed to getting rich. That's probably how they got rich. And then at the end of the side, if you have people that struggle with money, they need a lot more nurturing to be able to take risks. They are very risk averse. So big difference. When you're talking to a wealthy demographic, quick, effective, punchy, your webinar should be done with the whole thing in about 90 minutes, right? Shouldn't go past that, right? Teach, educate, pitch, right? When it comes to a less financially equipped demographic, the longer you teach, the better. Sometimes our workshops go on for 3 hours. Now, I usually cut it at 3 hours, but I've had ones going for even longer than that, right? They're draining, they're grueling, all of that stuff, but I know I have to give a ton of value. By the time we leave there, they need to understand that they learn a ton, whether they work with us or not. And I always remind them, at the end of the day, whether you're here with us, most of you can work with us, but you should have left here with a ton of value and knowing what to do next. And that's what I kind of live by, right? And that's why we get some good results. Now, that's the key. Rich, short, to the point, sweet, less financially equipped, longer, a lot more teaching, a lot more value because they're risk averse. They have to feel super confident in you, in the vehicle, all of that stuff. Now, once you finish the educational value, it is time to transition to pitch. So we don't just stop teaching and say, hey, you learned a lot. Okay, let me tell you what you're gonna look to learn with us, right? How you transition to pitch is the first thing you wanna do is you wanna recap every single thing they learn. Remind them of all the value they got in the workshop, right? We talked about this, right? That makes sense, right? And then you actually ask them, can I show you what it looks like to work with me? You want people to say yes, 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 for them to actually say, like, they're giving you permission to actually start pitching it. You go right into the pitch, you get a lot of resistance. Oh, he or she just stopped teaching, now they're going into the pitch. But if you ask, boom, they give you permission, good to go, let's get into the pitch. Now, when we go into the pitch, right, I pitch heavy, but I do a book or call model. I don't go into direct action for checkout. If you go direct to checkout, right, keep your price point, generally speaking, usually 5K is the breaking point, but I would even say under 3K is really a healthy place to be. But if you're gonna go directly into the pitch, right, and a direct to checkout, you gotta pitch a little heavier. You're looking to get them to make a relatively emotional decision. There has to be scarcity, there has to be urgency. You have to have like X amount of slots or bonuses for the first few people. But you are looking for them to literally go there, grab a credit card, and start buying stuff from you right away. So you're pitching a lot heavier. When I go into a book or call model, my whole frame is the call is free. Like there is no issue with you not like, why would you not book a call to find out more about this, right? What would it not make sense about you booking a free call to understand a little more about what we offer and at least getting to walk away from the call with some kind of understanding of what to do next, right? Pitching a call, and that's why you have a big difference between 30% conversion on calls versus 10% conversion on direct to checkout, right? Both work, but just understand pitching a call is a lot less resistance on there. Pitching a direct to checkout, a lot more resistance. You just need to understand what you're doing. And if you're pitching correctly, you're showing a ton of value, you should have no issue converting 30% of people to get on a call. Now, here's the thing. Direct to checkout, you pack it up, right? You wrap that up, you pitch heavy, you're making money, cool. What you can do with a direct to checkout model is you can have an ascension call on the back end. So what a lot of people do is they'll have an offer like $1,000, $2,000, right? From the amount of people that buy that, they will ascend them into a higher ticket package, like 6,000, 7,000, 10,000. And then a small portion of that, maybe 20, 30% of people will go and upsell. Cool thing about direct to checkout model, even though I don't do that, is you get to liquidate a lot of your ad spend before you have to pitch it to a sales team. We use a book or call model. So inherently, if the sales team does not perform, we lose a ton of money. So we got to be up our sales team ads. Both work. You just need to understand what resonates a little more with you and how good your sales team is at actually closing deals. Like I said, we do a book or call model, so this funnel gets extended a little bit. Look, make sure in the comments you let me know if this is helpful. If you need anything for me to break down anything a little more. I like doing these. I like kind of showing you guys what works, so feel free to let me know. Now, prior to the call, right, a few things got to happen here. Once again, remember before the event, we were nurturing them with all this organic content? Guess what? We're going to do it again, right? We're going to rebuild, and we'll go a little in depth here. We're going to do authority content, testimonial content, right? We're going to do objection handling content. And then we're going to do educational content. All of that is going to be force fed to them. Emails, SMS, retargeting content. We want them to build as much trust. We want it to be as close to one call close, no issue right there. Now, all of this is getting retargeted. We're paying money for it. We're sending out emails, all of these things to get it in front of them. Let's just say the sales team can't close, which they should be able to. I throw in even some more spice on it. I'm going to do something like a group Q&A. I'll get them people in the room. I'll talk about kind of get them to meet me, get them to meet the team, get them to understand. But why I like webinars so much is it puts the power a lot into your hand and less on your sales team here. If you ever ran a VSL funnel to cold traffic, you know if you have a great sales team, you're like hitting home runs. If you have a shitty sales team, your money's getting thrown down the toilet because at the end of the day, a bad sales team, they literally need to be there making money for you or you're fucked, right? Good thing about webinars, challenge funnels, these longer trust cycle funnels is you don't really need the best sales team. You just need to kind of have a brain and kind of just do things because you're doing so much of the marketing and nurturing component by itself. But this is kind of what you need to do. It goes to a sales call, you build all this content, you build a ton of trust, long webinars, bunch of content in front of them, and making things as easy as it possibly is for your sales team to convert. This is the entirety of our webinar funnel. Now, since you hung out this long, I'm gonna give you some tips, right? Some of the things that we like to do, right? I like to have somebody on my workshop that can answer questions all the way through, like nurture people, answer questions to the business partner, my coaches, whatever, but just providing a ton of value on the actual workshop. It helps the retention, right? Our stats across the webinar look like this, right? Generally speaking, we have about 30% show rate. 30% show. Retention to the pitch is usually in the 85% range, generally. About 35% book a call. And then we have somewhere, and our sales stats are not even the best. Sometimes our show rate to the calls are a little less. We may be about 60%. We really want to be at 70% sometimes. Sometimes we hit it, sometimes we don't. And our close rates in the kind of that 25 to 30% range could be better. But at the end of the day, because of the front end stats looking so good and the marketing being so good, that's what allows us to at least do a 3x ROAS on our ad spend. It allows us to be heavily profitable on this side. So that's exactly how you structure webinar funnels to turn cold traffic into high ticket buyers. And if you want help scaling your own info product or coaching business, this is exactly what I do with my clients to scale them up to 100 to 300K per month using the exact same systems and frameworks that we use to get our business to over $1 million per month in the past 24 months. Just click the first link in the description below to book a call with me and my team to see if we're a good fit. Then from there, we're always super transparent. Either if we have space in our done for you program, we'll let you know if you're a good fit for that, or maybe a done for you program that might be even better for you if you're someone looking to scale to 500 to $1 million per month like us. And if you found this helpful, make sure you hit the subscribe button for more breakdowns about exactly what you need to scale a high ticket info product business to multiple 6 or 7 figures. I'll see you in the next one.